Good morning and welcome to Farm Factor. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom. Today, Duane Toews is reporting from the National Association of Broadcasting Trade Talk meetings in Kansas City. First, he catches up with Dr. Tom Feynman with Boehringer Ingelheim Vetmedica to visit about challenges in the pork industry. Then Duane and John Weber, president-elect of the National Pork Producers Council, talk about issues surrounding exports. Next, we have our weekly Kansas Soybean update, and then Duane is back at Trade Talk with Dr. Paul Sundberg discussing the Swine Health Information Center. We'll end with Chris Hodges, CEO of the National Pork Board.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers. This segment is brought to you by Kansas Wheat. Learn more at rediscoverwheat.org.
Welcome to Farm Factor, broadcasting from the NAFB Trade Talk meetings in Kansas City. First, Duane catches up with Dr. Tom Feynman.
Duane Toews joining you once again with another segment of Ag AM in Kansas from Kansas City, Missouri during the National Association of Farm Broadcasting meetings. During Trade Talk, a chance to catch up with Dr. Tom Feynman with Boehringer Ingelheim Vetmedica. And Dr. Fangman, talking about the pork industry, we've certainly had some trying times from a disease standpoint in production and trying to maintain a pig flow for these farms across the country. Last couple of years, it seems like we always have something, but the last couple of years have been extremely challenging.
Duane, there's no doubt that is the case. We choose an industry that's constantly changing and dynamic, and pathogen exposure and pathogen prevention leads to our profitability as we look at swine production across the United States.
We think about some of those specific ones. PRRS maybe been around for a while now, but still a disease that we deal with, particularly on those farrowing operations where it can be the most critical.
Absolutely. PRRS continues to remain one of our most costly diseases as we look at anywhere from $6 to $10 associated with losses to PRRS alone. PRRS unfortunately does not occur alone in many of the systems we work with, so we speak to the porcine respiratory disease complex, and managing PRRS and mycoplasma and PCV2 and sometimes influenza within that complex create great opportunities for us.
We think about the most recent one that caught a lot of national perspective into play would have been PED, porcine epidemic diarrhea virus, that unfortunately caused a pretty big splash to start, but it appears already that guys are kind of getting a handle on that.
Our producers are resilient. They're committed to raising a quality pork product. If you can look at a positive outcome associated with PED, we have strengthened our understanding of biosecurity. And in those increased resilient practices, it's also led to better control for the other contributors to the PRDC, including PRRS. And that, along with immunization practices and regional commitment, we've been able to keep PRRS out of central Missouri and our regional control project. And maybe PED has allowed us to increase our emphasis in that control, along with some of the other diseases, as a potential positive outcome.
As a company, Boehringer Ingelheim Vetmedica, what are you doing in terms of working with producers to try and maintain profitability and combat some of these issues?
Absolutely, Duane. I appreciate that. In fact, this week I've been actively engaged on data collection across systems. Boehringer Ingelheim is committed to understanding the needs of producers that we serve, and will demonstrate the success of the solutions we provide through data-supported decision-making.
Our thanks to Dr. Tom Feynman with Boehringer Ingelheim Vetmedica joining us here at Trade Talk in Kansas City, Missouri. Jamie, we'll send it back to you for more Ag AM in Kansas.
Stay with us for more Farm Factor. Duane will be back with John Weber, president-elect of the National Pork Producers Council.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
Buying a car shouldn't be this hard. And at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, it isn't. It's actually awesome. Whether you want a new or used car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. Even if you want to custom order a new car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. See Toby's team at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're awesome.
I'm a patient of the Kansas Regenerative Medicine in Manhattan. I had stem cell therapy in my hips and my left knee. My wife and I both are patients. We went down there the same day in November. Since then, my hips are feeling a lot better. I can work now most of the day if I want to. And before, if I worked in the morning, I was done in the afternoon, or if I worked in the afternoon, I was sure enough done for the rest of the day.
Ag AM in Kansas, brought to you in part by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Welcome back. Let's join Duane and John Weber as they discuss trade agreements.
Duane Toews joining you again on Ag AM in Kansas as we continue with activities in Kansas City at the National Association of Farm Broadcasting meetings. We had a chance to catch up with John Weber, President-elect of the National Pork Producers Council. And John, a lot of things that have been going on. Obviously, from the Pork Producers Council side of things, trade's awfully important in making sure that we get free and fair access to our growers and producers. Pretty important.
Absolutely important to the pork industry, and we were very pleased to see TPP come to a closure between the 11 countries. And now, after seeing the details of TPP, we are going to be very supportive for U.S. pork producers as we enter into this agreement. And we've got a tough sell with Congress, but we'll get her done.
We think about some of the things that will play into that. Obviously, there are those organizations that aren't necessarily wanting to open trade to other countries in a protectionistic scheme, but realizing that our pork industry grows obviously more pork than we can utilize. We need those export markets, but we need it on a fair and level playing field.
And absolutely correct. We're exporting approximately 25% of the product we produce in this country. And so exports are extremely important. In 2014, we added $62 to the value of each and every pig that was marketed through exports alone. And this TPP agreement has huge potential, more so than any of the other free trade agreements that we've negotiated. And it will be for the future, the next generation of pork producers. Obviously, not all of the impacts of TPP will come into effect immediately, but certainly over a period of the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see some huge market access gains for our product.
And we think about those individuals that say that we're not getting enough bang for our buck with that agreement. Anything is better than where we've been, considering most all other countries have free access to our market here.
Yeah, and absolutely. I was very pleased the other night at the press conference to see agriculture come together. The National Corn Growers, the Soybean Association, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, and MPPC, all supportive of TPP. And every day, as more segments of that negotiation are finding out the details, we're seeing more and more support for TPP. I think that will have a big impact as we take our message to Congress that this is a good deal for American consumers, American workers, and certainly for American agriculture.
Moving to another topic that obviously has implications, country of origin labeling. A program that, depending on which side of the fence you stood on, it's had some issues and some battles drawn.
Absolutely. I wished I had more good news for MCOOL. There is a little bit of last-minute hope, but the stage we're currently in is the sentencing phase by WTO. We expect an announcement sometime in early December, probably around the 7th of December. We will hear from them on the amount of retaliation that both Canada and Mexico will be allowed to impose. We look for that to be a rather substantial number. It's most unfortunate. They will have the authority to begin retaliation immediately upon that determination, and it's going to impact a huge segment of the U.S. economy.
Our thanks to John Weber, President-elect with National Pork Producers Council, joining us in Kansas City here on Ag AM in Kansas. Jamie, back to you.
Thanks, Duane. The Kansas Soybean Update is coming up right after this break. Stay with us.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and the Kansas Soybean Update.
This is the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Steve Swaffar, Executive Director of No-Till on the Plains, is joining us. And Steve, it's a big celebration coming up January 26th and 27th for the 20th anniversary of the No-Till on the Plains Winter Conference.
We're really excited about this year. It is the 20th anniversary of our conference, and this year we have put together an all-star lineup of speakers. We're excited about what the opportunities for producers who attend this year is going to be. They'll have great opportunities to hear about lots of different topics, including transitioning the farm to the next generation. We have a speaker who'll be looking at consumer issues in the food chain. We have lots of information about soil health and cover crops, as well as using livestock in conjunction with no-till production. And so we think this is probably the all-star game of no-till speaker lineups, and we really encourage folks to get themselves registered before January 8th. Our prices will remain at a discounted rate through January 8th, so we're encouraging people to get it done by then.
What's impressive about the conference itself, but you really gear it towards if you're just starting out in no-till practices or if you've been a long time in no-till practices, there's really something for everyone.
We really want to help those that are in every aspect of no-till and soil health production practices. We do have a beginner session, very first session of the conference, that will focus on rotations and equipment and all of the basics of no-till, all the way up to the most advanced guys who are looking for the newest things that they can do to encourage the biological activity in their soils through the use of cover crops and pest management. So anybody who is thinking about no-till or implementing no-till now has an opportunity to learn something at this conference.
You can get discounted rates for registration if you register before January 8th, and I know the actual registration deadline is January 21st, but if they'd like more information, Steve, what's the best way they can find information about that?
We have all of the information on our website at notill.org, or they can call the office here at 785-210-4549, and we will take walk-in registrations the day of the conference.
Steve Swaffar, Executive Director of No-Till on the Plains, has been our guest on the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Learn more at kansassoybeans.org. For Kansas Soybeans, I'm Greg Akagi.
Hope you enjoyed this week's Kansas Soybean Update. Stay tuned after the break as Duane and Dr. Paul Sundberg talk about the Swine Health Information Center.
Biodiesel made from sustainable resources is diversifying our fuel supply. This year, biodiesel will displace over 1 billion gallons of fossil fuel nationwide. It's making our economy stronger and our communities healthier. It's working here and across America. Get biodiesel going in your community. Visit americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
Tallgrass Commodities offers producers bulk commodities at a reasonable price with reliable service throughout the whole Midwest. To find out more about Tallgrass Commodities, visit tallgrass.us or call 785-494-8484. Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment brought to you by Heinen Brothers Ag, farmers helping farmers by offering quality aerial and ground application, fertilizer, ag chemicals, and hydrous ammonia. Call today to protect your crop yield.
Thanks for staying with us. Now Duane and Dr. Paul Sundberg discuss production loss issues in the pork industry.
Duane Toews joining you here on Ag AM in Kansas. Another in the series on swine. I have a chance to catch up with Dr. Paul Sundberg with the Swine Health Information Center while in Kansas City at Trade Talk. And Dr. Sundberg, obviously we think about industry that relies a great deal on reactionary principles to disease outbreaks. The swine industry seems to be maybe one of the most involved in that kind of an aspect.
Well, what we want to do with the Swine Health Information Center and with funding from the Pork Board, we're a separate corporation, but the center is about more than reacting. It's about being prepared. So we're doing three things in the Swine Health Information Center. One is we're looking over the hill globally and also domestically for emerging diseases to better predict what diseases are most likely to come into the country. The second thing then is funding research to be prepared with diagnostics and other. And the third thing is for producer-to-producer management and sharing of information, analysis of data, so they can better manage disease. And that's part of a reaction if it gets here.
We've had a couple as of late. PED just a year or so ago. PRRS came into the swine populations prior to that, and we still battle with. But give us an example of what your organization does and how it works with producers and veterinarians.
Yeah, one of the examples that we have going on right now is Seneca Valley virus. That virus has been in the U.S., identified in the U.S. since 1998. And historically, we've had 3 to 5, maybe 5 infections every year since 1998. This year, the virus has changed, and so far the diagnostic labs are reporting better than 70 infections of that virus across the country just this summer. So there's a big increase in the number of infections. The concern about this is that virus looks exactly like foot and mouth disease. It causes sores and lameness between the toes, and it causes blisters on the nose of pigs. And the real concern is in the packing plants, so we don't have an overreaction to Seneca Valley in a packing plant and closing down a packing plant when they think it's FMD, as well as out on the farm for all producers and all veterinarians to assume that they have FMD. And the first thing, if you see these types of lesions, is to call your veterinarian, call the state animal health official, the state veterinarian, or a federal animal health official and have it investigated.
Obviously, you refer to foot and mouth disease, FMD. We have not had it in this country in quite some time, and it's pretty important that we keep it that way.
It's absolutely important. The latest estimate of economic damage, should that get into the country, is $188 billion, and that's with a B, $billion of damage. It would shut down our trade. It would shut down a lot of things, and we can't let that get into the country again. So we've got to be vigilant about this and not just assume that we've got Seneca Valley.
One thing to note, while we talk about a number of these issues, they are on a production issue, loss issue, not a food safety concern, so not to alarm people.
No, absolutely. That's correct. This is a production thing as well. It's not just foot and mouth disease, but this virus can cause some sudden death and diarrhea in pigs, especially 1 to 7 days old. It can cause these lesions and lameness in finishing pigs, which means that a producer would have to hold those in the barn until they're healed up before they go to market, and that's a production loss as well. But this virus doesn't cause any issues with any food safety issues at all.
All right, thanks to Dr. Paul Sundberg with the Swine Health Information Center joining us on Ag AM in Kansas. Jamie, back to you.
Don't go away. After the break, Duane introduces us to Chris Hodges, CEO of the National Pork Board.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information. Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or for more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to Farm Factor as Duane and Chris Hodges discuss 2015, a great year for pork producers.
Duane Toews joining him again on Ag AM in Kansas, while in Kansas City, Missouri at the National Association of Farm Broadcasting meetings and trade talk. Chris Hodges with the National Pork Board, CEO, joins us with the update. And Chris, we think about the pork industry. There's a lot of positive things that are going on from the nutrition and consumption side.
Yeah, 2015 was a big turn year for us. As you remember, 2014 we suffered through PED and production was down. But we came into 2015, roared into 2015. We had a lot more production than anybody saw coming. And we had a few problems in the export sector, so it was a rough start to the year. But by quarters 2 and 3, we'd come back around and ended up being really 2 good quarters for profit and for sales. We had a really strong sales season in both retail and food service in the U.S. Exports continued to struggle a little bit right through the year, but we had enough domestic demand that 2015 turned out to be pretty profitable.
We think about the opportunities in the meat case. Pork still picking up share in the meat case and favor with the consumer at the same time.
Absolutely right. We were excited this year because it was a first time that pork had led both food service and retail in sales growth. That's dollar sales growth. So that doesn't get any better than that when you got your 2 big channels with good, robust domestic demand. And as I said earlier, we really needed that because export was stumbling a little bit. So consumers really embracing our product. There's a lot of work that went into getting to this position, but Pork Board, we like to think that we had a role in that.
And my understanding, some rebranding, if you will, of names of cuts to make them more universal and more exploratory or explanatory for the consumer. They know what they're getting.
Right. A lot of consumers tell us they're still confused when they go up to the meat case. They call it the sea of red. They just don't understand the difference between different cuts and how they can prepare them. So that's one of the things we've worked real hard on. Our most popular website is Pork Be Inspired, and we got over 2,000 recipes on that, and we get a lot of visits. So that tells you that consumers are hungry for information on different cuts and preparation. Our heavy consumers that we've learned about through our research like to cook, and we do have a fair amount of our country going back to the kitchen, so to speak, and it really cuts across a lot of age groups. But there are a lot of folks that we call them creative cooks that enjoy cooking, and they really like our product because there's so much you can do with it.
We think about those opportunities to meet those individuals. The millennials really are kind of driving that, almost a renaissance of food, and pork fits that very well.
Absolutely. I call it the food channel generation. A lot of these young folks have grown up with the food channel, and they know the chefs. And quite frankly, pork does real well on the food channel. And now you've got other digital opportunities for the millennials. One thing that really distinguishes them from the other age cohorts is their interest in variety and trying new recipes. A lot of interest in Asian cooking right now. A lot of that's coming out of the millennials. So we've got a lot of new recipes and some new cuts that the Asians like.
That'll do it from Kansas City with the National Pork Board. Joining us on Ag AM in Kansas, Jamie, back to you.
Thanks for joining us today. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom, and I hope you enjoyed the show. See you next week on Farm Factor. We're here every Tuesday on Ag AM in Kansas.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers. To see this show and past episodes of Ag AM in Kansas, go online to agaminkansas.com.